Hey everybody, this is Tuning Tuesday with Joe and Alex, episode number 14? 14 episode. I can't believe we made it this far. Syndication is right around the corner. Remember guys, like, share, and subscribe if you want this to keep going, keep trucking on. It's been doing really well. A lot of questions have been answered. The feedback is awesome. So anytime you guys have any questions that you've always wanted answered and want some kind of forum to discuss it in, this is a great vehicle to do it in. Remember to actually subscribe to our YouTube channel also, since we got a lot of stuff going on there. Real quick, we do have a special guest today, but we're going to give you a quick snapshot of what's been happening since we last met, which was Tuesday. Yeah. So let's talk about real quick Gen 3 on Track Attack, what it made, the subsequent controversy, whatever. It was a lot of fun, but what happened with Track Attack last week when we bolted a Gen 3 on it on C16?
All of the power.
Okay.
All of it. Without the drama 988, with the drama 1020.
Okay. That's rear wheel, and that's on a stock fuel pump.
Stock fuel pump that was not happy.
It wasn't happy.
No.
So it was running out of fuel, what, 7,200? It just kind of started to
well, it started to complain at like $7,000.
Right.
And then it was not having it at 72. So most of the graphs that you'll see of that end around 68, 69. And then there's a couple where I took it to 72, but I wasn't happy with the data, so I didn't bother posting them.
But whichever way you shake it at it, blip or no blip, it's a 1,000 horsepower car. 1,000 horsepower rear wheel. If you want to talk crank, that's a whole different story. But rear wheel, it's well over 990, whether it's SAE, whether it's standard, whether there's a blip or no blip, who cares? It made 1,000 on a 2.6 liter. That's the key here. We don't have a 4-something on this thing. We have a 2.6 liter 2650 Gen 3 with an Eaton rotor pack. Now, today, we have been testing the unit on a built GT500. We can't really release numbers, but is it making what we thought it would make based on the data? Like, are we happy with the numbers that the GT500 made?
Yeah.
Now, if you see this thing make a pull, it's a pretty well-equipped GT500, and on blower only, it's well into the realm of the numbers that we like to see. But we'll release it officially later in a video capacity. But I'm telling you, this 2.6 liter on GT500 and on Coyote has made insane power, and I can't wait to see it on a stock GT500 and on an S550, which is my car. We'll actually, give it the beans and see how it works
eventually a Cobra.
Yes, that's true. Once Cobra units come out, a couple of lucky guys will have some units on site, and we're going to start making power with it, see what it does. But if it's anything like Coyote, GT500, and the S550 stuff,
it's very promising.
Yeah, real promising, so we're really happy. But before we get way into the weeds on questions, because I know you guys probably have the same question, when's it coming out and how much is it? Today we have a special guest, okay? We have a gentleman who came into our lives and made our lives a lot better because before him, the clutch selection on Coyote Mustang was real limited, okay? A lot of guys either had to go with a really aggressive twin disc or an organic style single disc, I think it is, the RS2, or is that still a twin disc? It's still twin disc, and it either held the power or blew your shit up, for lack of a better word.
And then they have like a Street Pro or something that I think is a single disc.
Right, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Geoff Gerko from Mantic.
You gonna scoot over?
Thanks, guys.
Golf clap.
Thank you much. Nice to be on the scene. I'm in.
Hello, Geoff. So where are you out of? I know you're now the Northeast, or the distributor for the United States, basically. The sole distributor for Mantic Clutches?
That's right. I managed to trick the Australians into let me market the product here to you guys. So we're based out of North Carolina. Everything ships out of the Raleigh area, warehouse there, so we can obviously better serve you guys and customers across the country. So
very good. Now, what made you get into clutches? What started this?
Boy, the safe answer would probably be drugs.
Drugs?
Drugs,
yeah,
probably.
Definitely drugs.
Yeah, I never just didn't do those. I'm more of a speed guy myself. No,
the speed drug?
In more ways than one. No, my career kind of took a neat path about 12 years ago. Got to work with Hayes and Lakewood a while back. And things just kind of progressed, and Mantic kind of came to me about 4 years ago, and we struck up a good partnership and have helped them grow here in the market.
Okay.
Guys like you have really carried us along. Glad we met the need. And yeah, we're just kind of here where we are. So,
what is, for Mustang, your best seller?
Hands down, the 5.0 stuff. The new 5.0 stuff is just, it's really worked well. I know you guys have sold quite a few.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely our leader. The 5.2 stuff has taken on
really
quite a big jump.
The GT350 crowd is getting into the Mantic stuff.
Yeah. So the GT350, we actually we're going to put up a video on our website here. So we've got a much lighter aluminum flywheel for the 5.2s, kind of works well with that powertrain, and the same twins and same triples that you guys have had good luck with for that too.
Excellent.
Nice.
Do you have any? Have you had any concerns with the strength of the GT350 transmissions? Because now people are supercharging these things, and they're kind of going a little kooky.
We do see, or we have seen, kind of the weak link in the GT350s is the transmission. Can't hold me to strict numbers here, but roughly around the 600 mark is where we start to see some issues, shifting issues, and the synchros kind of don't like it, and things like that. But which is a shame because clutch will hold 1,000 for the twin, 1,500 for the triple, so we've got plenty of room to grow. But yeah, I think it's probably going to go the path where we're going to start seeing kind of a complete setup, which we're actually kind of working on as well.
Okay.
We'll maybe do a bell housing, clutch, and transmission to kind of tidy up that whole part of the car because they're such great cars. And as you guys know, I'm not necessarily a Mustang guy, but it's pretty cool. So
he's very much a Dodge man, which is
everybody's got their thing.
Everyone's
Even but yeah, it's such a cool platform. I'm glad they did it. I think it's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Really cool.
Now, in terms of, is there anything on the horizon that you're working on that people
Can't tell you that?
Well,
What do you?
Is there anything? In other words,
did you guys take the boot off my car?
Well, that Sentra that was out there?
Yeah.
I thought you were a Dodge guy. What's up with the Sentra?
Listen, man.
We had Matt Coates here last week, and he's such a diehard Ford guy. He got a Lincoln Navigator.
It was a Sentra, or a Kia, or a Hyundai, and I have a pretty storied relationship with Kia and Hyundai. Great products, but had to change it up a little bit.
So, is there anything, because now the Coyote is the S550, and then the new 18 Mustang is going to be coming out. It already comes with a twin disc, which you said you've seen a unit.
Correct.
Do you see anything on the horizon that there's a need for, like the really high horsepower guys, besides the triple or anything like that?
We are working on a quad disc for the
all the
15 and up. All the discs we can get. Just want them all. And we should have those available probably still in a P1 state around June. We're working as quick as we can to kind of get, because we have people coming to us with the need. I mean, you guys are whipping the triple out back there pretty good.
Yeah.
We also have, and we kind of released this in the fall, we have a centered iron option for more of the racing focused vehicles. We can do that in a twin and in a triple. And it gets you a little more torque capacity, a little more I guess abuse capacity is a good way to say it. But your drivability definitely plummets with those. But you gotta kind of make some trade-offs here.
Yeah,
for sure. Now, if you guys have any questions, make sure they're clutch-centric, because it's not often that we have a clutch expert here, and he can actually give you the.
Well, you guys have a clutch expert too.
He actually builds the clutches. Some of the stuff that he actually build, like the triple discs, you build them all, right? Like
yeah, we so the twin discs obviously are a little simpler in nature because it's a twin disc. The triples, we've got a few more variables to play with. So for a quality control standpoint, I like to put my hands on them. We've got a couple other guys that we kind of work in conjunction, make sure we get you guys the highest quality clutch that we can. So that when you guys open the box, it's ready to go, it's tested. You might even see my signature on it to know that it's ready to go.
How do you, Joe is the only one that I know that has driven a triple disc on a 1,000+ rear horsepower application. Tell me how the car feels, which is the one that we just did some dyno testing on. How does the car feel? How's it drive? How's it shift?
Given how like the traditional thought of a triple disc clutch would make you feel about running something like that, you'd be like, oh, it's going to drive like complete ass. The engagement's going to be really rough. Completely the opposite. Really smooth engagement. Holding power is insane. I mean, you guys saw what it did out there. It holds it, and it's pretty far up there on the torque capacity.
I think you guys will get close to its capacity on the route you're going, which is fine. We'll test it and see.
That's our job. We'll put 4 discs in there. So, Carrie, any questions coming in that are clutch specific, or do we still have some stragglers about 2650 and tuning?
Perfect. So,
nice.
I'm going to start from the beginning and kind of roll my way down.
Sure.
First off, you have some shout outs. So Alexandra says shout out from Canada and Shelby, Canada West. So
very nice.
Shelby, Canada. There's another shout out, Kevin Bagwell. Hey, Joe.
Hola, Kevin.
Leo Torres says hi. Michael Ayano says Whipple boys are nervous.
We're concentrating on our own thing. We're not really looking to make a fight about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Melvin Vegas says great numbers on track attack, guys.
Nicely done.
Good job, Joe. Good job, Joe.
Looks like JP says shout out to Alex for doing a killer 3-valve tune.
Oh, that's JP Demolay, I think. Yep.
Yep, you got him.
Don't advertise that I do 3 valves. Oh, crap.
Sean Pigford says, I have a Coyote SWAT 96 Cobra that I am almost finished with. I'd like to run E85. Would I be able to get a tune from us, or you guys, or would that be something I'd have to get dyno tuned?
Go, Joe.
Easy. Yeah, just order a tune. Make sure you select the E85 option on the website, and then preferably get an ethanol content test tube. Measure the quality of the ethanol after you order the tune. Shoot me an email, let me know what the ethanol content is of the fuel you're actually going to be putting in the tank, and then I'll send you a tune based on that.
And Sean says, by the way, he loves you guys.
Sweet.
Oh my.
There you go.
Kelly says, can you describe the best way to launch a supercharged 17 4x4 F-150 in 4 high? Do you leave it in the fourth or whole? Do you leave it in fourth the whole run, or do you switch it out after takeoff trying to get a better launch? Losing 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds in launch.
I got this one. If you get a skyjack crane, like 3 or 4 stories, and just let go. I think that's probably the best launch.
The F-150, the supercharged F-150, it doesn't like to be stalled really high on the line. You need to sort of have a quick, steady kind of like engagement of the gasoline, just kind of like a foot brake it to about 1500, and then just kind of apply it all in one shot. Don't slam it because you might wheel hop the thing. But that's usually the best technique. But we are on like a 75 millimeter, 72 millimeter, I think, pulleys with race gas sometimes. So that'll depend on how your truck is reacting to the boost that you're throwing at it.
Roger and Clark, who's a regular watcher of the show, wants to inquire, or is asking about what rises the cost of the Mantic Clutch.
Good question.
You should show them some
Show them
some of that quality.
Jumping right into the numbers. Well, here, we'll try to dance around our little X here so you guys can see everything.
Perfect. Now you can see the screen. Hey-o! You can see in the screen what we're seeing. Perfect. Oh, that's excellent.
See right there. We'll get it centered right in there.
Yeah. So we're going to basically show you, your mic. Oh, his mic fell.
No.
Just plug it back in the top. You're good. We're professional.
Are we back?
Yeah, we're back. Well, no, actually,
Sorry,
let me see if it's on still. Yep.
You're good.
Sorry, guys.
Hey,
Sorry,
you're
guys.
good. You're fine. You're a little nervous, Once you get to Hollywood, you got to kind of get used to it.
I mean, you gotta kind of, I'm still upset about the makeup guy. There was supposed to be a makeup guy. Anyway, so
He's off today.
The cost of our kits is a little more than a lot of what's currently available, but we try to make that up with the overall quality of the components, which at the end of it all kind of gets. Yeah, I'm gonna bring him in here. So we'll kind of start with kind of one of the heart of the matters, our actual intermediate plate. See, it's a nice machine piece. It's got these anti-rattle springs on it, which keeps everything nice and quiet at idle. When you guys push the clutch pedal in, you're sitting at a stoplight. This is what helps keep it quiet. Also helps aid in the clean disengagement of the clutch. Makes it drive nice, makes it shift nice.
Adds a little bit of preload.
Not so much preload, but what it does is it helps the intermediate plate actually separate from the disc.
Okay.
You get a little bit of air gap in there, so it actually will spin. And then we've also got the little drive blocks here, which I'm trying to show you guys on the screen. And the intermediate plates actually lock on these drive blocks, and this is what helps transmit the power. So some clutches out there, even some factory clutches, use a similar strap like this to transmit the rotational power, which is okay in one direction. If you downshift or you miss a shift or something, it's like pushing on a rope. And you'll buckle that strap. So these have eliminated that problem. If you take a look at our cover here, it's a nice machined aluminum cover.
Is this billet aluminum?
Golden washers.
Golden washers, of course, with our diaphragm, and we cycle test these to about 1 million strokes to make sure that they're going to be, not each one, but per batch, I should say. So that adds a little bit of cost as well. And then kind of the other center of the matter are actual discs, which you can see here.
This is a sprung hub design.
Sprung hub discs, and we'll put it out there to folks. So The springs here in the center would also help keep things quiet. When the car's at idle, you've got kind of a lot of bad harmonics kind of coming through the crank, rattles the transmission. These springs and this floating hub actually help eat some of that up. This is why a lot of the new cars have like a dual mass flywheel, or they'll have you know, a multiple tune on these springs to try to eat that up. The other factor, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but we'll do our best. How's that looking, Alex?
Does that look pretty good? Straight up and down.
Okay. So if you take our disc, you can actually squeeze these guys right here. Get in there, muscles.
Yeah, I see what you mean. There's has a little bit of a give in there. Okay.
That's what helps it drive smooth and helps it drive nice as well.
So when you're taking off from a light, that slight squeeze allows you a little play in the pedal.
What it does, what I like to say, is it extends what's called the engagement delta, and it's that short bit of time that the clutch has to go from dynamic to static, meaning locking together and transmitting the power. Got a little bit of cushion, you can modulate that. It makes for a nice, smooth driving experience.
Now that's where some clutches feel like an on-off switch, that they don't have that. They have more of a stiffer engagement.
For like our centered iron options that are strictly a drag racing application, a road racing application, no cushion. You don't really need it.
Right.
You want to kind of dump and go.
Got it.
And you know, this is primarily what we use, is primarily everything you guys have had experience with. So we also have, for more road race guys, we have a solid hub version of this, which takes a little more mass out of it, a little quicker shifting, but it's also a little noisier because now you don't have the springs there. So hopefully that that kind of justifies a little bit more of our cost. Keep in mind too, you know, our kits come complete, as you guys know.
Yeah, with a throwout bearing.
With a throwout bearing, flywheel, are the hardware.
The spacers and the application that they're needed.
And it's a rebuildable unit.
Correct.
If you ever wear out your clutch disc for whatever reason, you can just buy some discs.
Oh, you don't have to buy it. You can just send it back to us. We'll remachine our surfaces, and we're going to be, a lot of times we'll actually just reline the discs, because you can put 30, 40,000 miles on the disc and it's fine. It's the friction material that gets wore out. So replace that and guys are good to go.
Excellent.
We'll usually, you know, check everything out obviously before it goes out. Remachine your flywheel. So even though you might be spending a little more up front, it's much more of a an investment kind of part versus a kind of a one-time throwaway part.
Right. Other clutches, once you're done, you're done. You toss it, you get another one. This one you can actually send it back to you in North Carolina. You'll rebuild it, reline it, make sure everything's kosher, and send it back.
Yep. And you know, that helps consistency-wise too. You find something you like and you love, stick with it.
Yep.
You know, let us be your clutch for 10 or 15 years. Why not?
So I just, at the exact same time, we had a comment on YouTube and on Facebook also say, basically, it comes with a cool metal case too.
Oh, it does come with a cool.
You got to mention the case.
We got to bring the case up here.
We'll
Hang
bring
on.
the case up. How the logistics will work. I'll bring the stuff on this.
Let's see if I can knock my
Two
mic out
different
again.
people at the exact same time. One's like, don't forget the sick-ass briefcase. And the other one says it also comes with a cool metal case.
Yep, cool metal case. As you can see, put all your stuff in there, your clutch stuff.
You can do matrix stuff with
If you're
it.
a drug mule, this is an excellent
way
thing to bring across.
Transport your contraband.
How many kilos do you think you can fit in this guy?
At least 2. I mean,
Nice.
depending on how you really pack it in there, you know.
And if you cut it, you know, you can get 2 more out of it. So
What was your density on that?
Nice.
Is that compressed or decompressed?
So yeah, basically the price, basically there's a lot of R&D, it's rebuildable, you get like the personal touch. Geoff himself is the guy that's actually playing with this stuff, and it's not a throwaway unit. It's something that I experienced. I had 2 versions. I had a 23 spline MT82 and a 26 spline T56 version. All I had to do was buy a different set of hubs because they're 26 versus 23, and that's it. I was off and running, no issues with it. So I was actually very happy with the product. So I'm a supporter, and I'm really happy that he's here.
Anybody has any questions after the show, feel free, send us an email. You will probably get a response from me.
What's your email?
Oh, Geoff Gerko at manicclutchusa.com. We also have a new
Gerko.
Gerko.
And
Yeah.
Geoff is spelled Geoff.
Yeah. If you just go to our website, you can
There you
send a request.
Excellent.
It'll get to me. It'll get to me.
We do have some questions.
Shoot.
So Mark Germain on Facebook says, I need a clutch replacement ASAP. Tell me why I should buy a Mantic over a RTX for my 2011.
There you go.
You're getting the full package with our setup. Like we said, it is rebuildable. I don't know exactly. Does he give an idea what he's doing with the car?
No, he didn't say.
Ah, that's all right. That's all right.
Daily driving.
Daily driver, you know, fry run, maybe. Hey, if you're making drug runs, just saying. We'll help you out. I mean,
Expedited.
Not judging, just saying. No.
Mexico.
Only Mexico, only Mexico.
Yeah, never wrong Mexico. What's wrong with Mexico?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, both are good options. I'd certainly never talk, bad about the clutch. But I think we do offer a little more torque capacity than the run-of-the-mill RXT, which is arguably a better way to go. But yeah, I mean, like I say, it's definitely we try to offer a little higher quality component, a little higher quality kit. And that's kind of why we push it, why you guys have had such good luck with it.
Yeah, anytime anyone comes here, they either, when they want to make some power and they have a stick shift car, they either get a bend calimer stage 1 and a Mantic attached to it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty consistent. It's a good package that we sell here because we have everything in stock and we can just throw it in there.
Yeah, we've worked with Ben quite a bit too. And
he actually turned me on to you. He was like, hey Alex, if you're looking for clutches, just hit up Mantic.
He said, "Don't judge a guy on his appearance," and then
yeah, he said something about being a hippie or something like that. And
I was just ignore the sandals and
he's a good guy. So he's the one that turned me on to you. So that's
very cool.
Been good, been real good.
Very cool, very cool.
George says Geoff is awesome. Quick email responses and the clutch is perfect.
Thank you, George.
He says he just installed the Mantic 9000 series Ceremetallic twin disc clutch. Put about 600 miles on it so far, but I have some questions. As I'm slowly letting the clutch out and start to take off from a stop, normal acceleration, it kind of shudders as the clutch is released. I'm trying to find the best way to describe it. Any insight, is this normal?
It is normal. What we recommend, and this is probably one of the most important factors I can put out there, we request, i.e. demand, that the clutches get a 300 to 500 mile break-in period. And what we're doing, if you guys can look here, I kind of lost my X, but hopefully we'll be close here.
Sure.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to transfer some of this friction material to all the steel surfaces in the clutch. Gives us a uniform coefficient of friction across the whole clutch, gets you the maximum torque capacity. Now, having said that, this friction material is pretty hard, very hard actually. So until it either knocks down some of the high spots or it wears itself into their friction surfaces, you may have a little bit of chatter. It's probably just a matter of it needs a couple more break-in miles on it. But yeah, that's really. Did he list his mods on his car? My apologies.
He didn't. Oh, he did? Okay.
No, he did not.
Typically, what happens is people think, 500 break-in miles. Let me just go up and down.
I'll drive to Miami and back, and I'll have my miles.
Yeah, it's got to be stop and go.
Engagements is key.
What we're trying to do too is ideally you want to get the clutch warm and kind of let it cool off, and get it warm and kind of let it cool off. And I say warm, not Satan's bachelor party hot. Warm. And what that does, like I said, it helps transfer material to all the surfaces, and that's really what we're looking for.
He came back and said, perfect, how do you recommend I take them off, really drag that clutch out?
Take off, maybe?
Oh, take off like
take off then, yeah, sorry.
Anytime you slip a clutch, no matter whose it is, you're going to accelerate the wear just because something's got to wear in the drivetrain. Ideally, you want it to be the tires because they're cheap and easy. Ideally, you don't want it to be the transmission because they're expensive and not easy. So next in line comes the clutch. So ideally, as the clutch guy, I want to say just dump it and go. But really, unless you're at the maximum threshold of some clutches, you can slip it a little bit.
He's on a twin turbo kit, 13 GT, makes about 700 plus stock trans, 331 gears in a stock rear end.
Yeah, same thing. It's similar setup to what I had.
Yeah, I think I'd just be gentle on the slip. Give it that half second to make sure the clutch pedal's all the way out, and then hammer down. You should be fine.
Yeah, I'd find that usually if you're consciously slipping it more than you feel you need to or should, you're doing it too much.
Yeah, I agree.
He said BMR, full rear suspension, BC coilovers.
None of that stuff matters.
Well, I'm just letting you know, he's coming back.
Yep.
He's communicating.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. We're going to shoot down all our customers.
He's going to tell me what shifters in the car next. You know?
Yeah, the sun visors. Right.
Doug came on and said the cocaine case alone is worth the buy.
That's right. I don't know what the...
Justin came on and said, I'm sold. Y'all keep increasing my build cost. I love this type of podcast, by the way.
Yeah, what we want to do is a couple of things. It is Tuning Tuesday, but you got to understand, we want to get you information, and there are people that we think have a great product and we support, and we want to, even though this isn't tuning related, it kind of is, because when it comes to the
tuning's a whole package.
Package. You know, once you get to the track, you're going to want to ask us, launching the car, technique,
tires,
pressure. It doesn't end at the physical tune. It ends when you want your, the right ET or whatever. So if we can bring someone on like Geoff or someone like an injector company or anyone like that that can at least help us get you the right parts on the car, it's just a win-win for everybody.
And it really is a package deal. Alex, you and I have talked a couple times. Whenever you switch to primarily a Mantic Clutch, but anything that's lighter than the OE assembly, which is just about everything, you're going to probably have to make some adjustments to the idle. Idle speed plays a role in that too, and usually that's the drivability side. Or if somebody's getting a lot of noise, we'll say, well, bring your idle up from like 6 RPM to like 800,
right.
And that will help smooth out
the engagement.
The idle cadence, and but it'll actually help the engagement too, because to gain a little more moment of inertia, when you've got less mass, you need a little more RPM, a little more speed.
Force equals mass times acceleration.
There's that rough equation that haunts us all. So very good, very good.
Rogowski says only Geoff would have golden washers. What's up, dude?
Say, Lanky, good to hear from you.
Leo and Becky Torres says, how much is the rebuild of the clutch?
There you go.
The rebuilds will kind of vary. If we get something in to where strictly the discs are wore out, that's pretty straightforward. We pop new linings on it, resurface your flywheel. You're probably looking between $325, $425, somewhere there. If we've really hurt things, we have to replace the plates or we have to replace a cover, you're going to be up around $625, $725, something like that, for a twin.
What if I bring you a blue medium plate that I told you I was driving?
We hardened it.
Yeah, when Alex sends me his grandmother's own purple clutch that saw only trips to the church on Sunday in the grocery store.
Right.
Actually, color isn't always a deterrent. What we look for primarily is we want to make sure that the intermediate plate is flat.
Okay.
So it can be a purple nurple. If it's still halfway flat, we can turn it and it's fine.
Nice.
Sometimes the right heat, the right conditions, it won't have much color change, but it'll have either a twist to it or it'll be bowed one way or the other.
And then that's when you'll feel the chattering, you'll feel just kind of a whole bunch of
Correct.
funkiness going on.
Because instead of engaging on a flat plane, you're engaging on top of mountains type of thing?
Well, if it's got a Pringles-esque warp to it, that's what you'll see. If it's conical, you'll get one of two things. If it's only grabbing on the inside, you're going to see a great diminish in torque capacity because your lever arm is much less than is if you're working out here. If it's warped on the outside or the other disc, it's still going to grab, it's going to hold okay, but you're going to quickly run out of surface area and you're going to wear out the outer part of the clutch a lot faster.
Okay.
A lot of times if it has a little bit of warp to it, it will essentially wear itself level. Because the discs and the pads are going to wear down at a certain rate. But no, usually, unless it met the same fate of getting dropped from the chopper, we can usually rebuild whatever comes in. So like I say, it is more of an investment versus a throwaway type product.
Excellent. Luke says, does anything need to be adjusted with the tune after installing a new clutch? Does it need a crank relearn?
The 5.2s we've seen are a little susceptible to the crank relearn, and what that really is the computer is seeing a different mass on the back of the crank, so the idle speed and again the idle cadence is off a little bit. Having worked with and for a couple OE manufacturers, a lot of time and R&D goes into NVH and getting the right balance of mass on the back of the crank to smooth it out, and when you alter that, you sometimes have to do a crank relearn, or usually, if it's a good tuner like Alex or Joe, they can just go in, knock it out in the first go round, and it's not a problem.
Yeah, and for the sake of saying from a tuning standpoint, my basic understanding of the misfire logic in Fords is it measures the amount of time between signals from the crank sensor to determine whether or not you have a misfire or an issue, and the amount of time it takes between, like in transitional states and stuff like that, the amount of time it takes between those pips, we'll call it, can change with the mass of the flywheel because you're changing the rotating mass. So in my experience, if you change anything rotating mass-wise on an 11-up Mustang or Ford that has the new style misfire logic in it, you have to do a crank relearn. Whether it be the balancer or the flywheel or the the pressure plate or the flex plate or the torque converter, just do a crank relearn, because then the engine can kind of learn the profile of the rotating mass, and then you get an accurate or a more accurate misfire profile.
The way I've always described it too, if you could look at the back of the crank when the engine's idling, it's not smooth.
Especially if you look at it on a high speed.
Yeah,
there's on a high speed
exactly. There's really good high speed camera work out there, and you can actually see the crank. It's like it almost like speeds up, slows down, speeds up, slows down.
You should see what a lower pulley does at high speed.
Oh, I can only imagine.
The waves under boost.
George came back and said, "You're the best, Geoff."
Oh, well, thank you, George. Thank you.
Oh
Tony wants to know off the top of your head, do you know what the 2003 Cobra part number is?
I want to say an M921 233. I think.
I believe we have one here. I think
You guys
we have
probably
Cobra,
do.
Yeah, I think we have one Cobra one here, but yeah, I mean it's available. Now, what's the biggest difference between Cobra cable-driven clutches versus hydraulics? Like, what is the biggest difference physically?
I mean, physically, the clutch is actually the same. The clutch really doesn't change. The only real difference is how your foot is interacting with the fingers.
Got it.
And the nice thing about the hydraulic setups across all the platforms is you have a much better mechanical advantage, even though it's a fluid. Bear with me, people. You have a much better mechanical advantage to actually control the fingers on the clutch. The cables and the manual stuff works fine. It's just you're always fighting additional friction. You may not even have the best ratio to actuate it. But no, clutch is exactly the same. We sell, we've got a couple kits with the manual bearing in it as well.
Very good.
Nice.
John wants to know how much chatter does the Mantic make?
A fair amount until it's broken in. It usually goes in, as I've experienced, 2 or 3 stages. So probably the first 50 miles, it's going to be a little bitey. And then it'll kind of calm down. You'll feel it occasionally. And then usually about the 150-mile mark, it'll smooth out. And as soon as you feel that big smooth or a noticeable change, I say then just drive it for at least 1.5 times that much more mileage. So drive for another 200, you're set. And that puts you at about the 450 mark. And we shoot for 300 to 500 to break it in.
Alan says, any new Mantic products for the 03 Cobra? Also, tips to adjust pivot ball with a Mantic on a T56.
All right, the pivot ball adjustment's a little tricky because we do have the studs and the bolts coming out of the back of the cover. So you've got to watch where your fork is actually coming in. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Best thing to do really is just kind of trial and error it. I know it kind of stinks, but so long as you have a couple adjustable pivot balls. I know Lakewood makes them. I think Summit sells them. I think you guys actually probably sell them too.
I want to say McLeod makes one as well.
What? That's as bad as talking about torque. What are you doing to me? But yeah, unfortunately, because each car is going to be a little different, you have to kind of trial and error it. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you going to do? At least you got an answer. I mean, some people are just like, ah.
Yeah, listen, I might not know, but I will tell you. So, yeah, it's about the best we can do there.
Ryan says he's super impressed with the Mantic clutches. They're definitely making an impact amongst the car community. I like the 9000 series Mantic.
Cool. Cool.
Mine actually smoothed out, believe it or not. It did some very slight chattering. When I went to Mod Nationals, the first inaugural Mod Nationals, it drove better than ever after beating snots out of it. I almost knocked down any high spots that were there.
There you go.
Because it really ran real well out that whole weekend, so I was thrilled.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, you've got a pretty hard friction material, and once it gets kind of happy, once it works its way in, it really works well. I mean, that's I say that's part of the secret to it.
So I was just informed that we do in fact have a Cobra Mantic 9000 with the 26 spleen input haft, not the 10 spleen, however, here.
Or spline.
Spline, spleen.
Spleen.
I got
whatever.
spleen.
Dribble
a little alcohol on that. Clean that up for us.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Peyton
We're just
says,
poking
does
fun.
Mantic offer clutches for Coyote swap with the TKO 600 transmission?
Yep.
How are the clutches tested to get the torque rating advertised?
Great questions. I love
Good question. Real good question.
Excellent.
No problem on the TKO. It's got the same 1 1/8" 26 spline. Have him just shoot me a line. We'll get him set up. We'll double check our height, but it depends if he has the Ford or the Chevy transmission. But the spline is the same either way. Probably, yeah, or it could be the spleen. Everybody check your spleen regularly, possibly with your doctor.
Got to check the spleen count.
Got to check the spleen count.
I'm sure about that.
So the torque rating, how is it
The
achieved?
torque rating. Okay, so you can come up with the theoretical torque rating of the clutch. It's basically 4 factors. So obviously, the clamp load delivered by the pressure plate is 1. You have to take into account the actual size of the disc. So we'll show you here.
That is a 10-inch?
That's 9
9
inch. So when we say size of the disc, you're interested in the OD of the friction material and the ID, and you're going to try to find that average.
Okay.
Because what that is that's essentially the lever arm that you have to transmit the torque. So that's kind of one of the tricks there. The third factor is the coefficient of friction, how easily or how difficult it is to actually slip the material. And this is why it's so important to go through the break-in. Even coefficient of friction brings the torque capacity of the clutch up.
Got it.
If you've got, like this material is 0.32, the steel is actually probably only about 0.28 until it gets bedded in. So you're going to have a rough average instead of 0.32 all the way through. So, and then the fourth factor, and actually all these are multiplied together, you can switch them around however you want, the number of friction surfaces you have. And we're not talking this way, but we're talking one side and two sides.
So the number of faces?
Essentially the number of faces.
Okay.
So if you have a twin disc clutch, how many surfaces do you have interacting?
4.
Wow, these guys are good. Math. Exactly. Yeah, math.
2 times 2?
Math.
4.
Math.
I know this. I got this.
Not
This
a
isn't
waste
trick
of time
question.
in high school. And similarly with the triple, when we add a disc, we're adding 2 more friction surfaces.
Right.
So when it comes to rating the clutch's capacity, that's always your theoretical. You know, the clutch is going to handle pretty much the multiplication of those 4 factors. Now, when we talk about clutch life and why my clutch has failed or why mine held, 8 bazillion horsepower all day long, it usually comes down to more of the use or abuse of the clutch. So if you're riding the pedal and you're slipping it a lot, and you're getting it super hot and then doing it again.
Or if you're that guy that during the break-in period with a
that's
clutch
hard.
that is not bled properly, you leave it in gear at the stoplight,
Oh yeah.
leave it in first with your pedal all the way to the floor, but your clutch not completely disengaged, with a nice glaze.
Oh yeah, that's great.
We're transferring the stuff over. That's what we're doing.
You are for a split second, and then you're glazing it like a donut, which hey, I like
Makes it nice
donuts,
and
so
slippery for those
makes it
1,000
nice and
horsepower
slippery.
cars.
We rate our stuff a little conservative as to what it will actually hold. All of our stuff also is rated at the crank. That's where the clutch does its work. The new website I've broken down, like if you're 1,000 at the crank, you're realistically 820, 850 at the tires, somewhere there. Some people will get 9. I think my record is like, somebody got 11 something out of one of theirs, which,
Wow.
hey,
Triple
fantastic.
or a twin?
A twin.
Wow.
Didn't last long, but it did it for a
It
little
did,
while, but
right.
you're grotesquely over its torque capacity. But yeah, another thing we have to factor into too, as silly as it sounds, is it's how the car is making power. An NA car is different from a supercharged car, which is different from a turbo car, and then you guys like to pour a little nitrous on top of it too, which makes my life even more difficult. But and the problem there is how violently
The torque is brought on.
Right.
So the kind of like a ramp rate almost.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
That's it. If it's like we were joking about sport bikes earlier. If it's like nothing, everything, that makes it hard for the clutch to do its job. If it's a much more gradual ramp in, then
Or if it's a consistent, like with a blower, where it's 800 at 2,000 and 800 at 7,000.
right,
And it's
right,
easy.
right. And it's worth noting too. Clutches only see torque. You guys know, horsepower is a function of torque. It's kind of the time derivative of it. So, everyone wants to know how much horsepower. Well, it's a matter of torque. And, like again, the 5.2s, which I don't like, but are cool, they're making much more horsepower than they
torque,
are
right.
torque.
They're very lazy.
So, yeah, so it's just a kind of a different flavor. We haven't gotten into doing any of the, Cummins-esque clutches, but they're all torque, yeah. Oh, your truck only makes 150 horsepower. Yeah, but it makes a freight train worth of torque. So
exactly,
yeah.
it's like a dump truck.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Good
Nick
question.
wants to know how is the GT350 clutch? Would you recommend the twin disc or triple disc clutch on a GT350?
Well, how much power is he
yeah.
making?
Right.
I got nothing to go with here.
In the
Actually, I do. I'd say just buy them both. It's cool.
In the meantime, I actually have a question about the calculation of the torque capacity. Is it, you mentioned the outside to inside diameter and then the coefficient of friction of the material. Since this is not necessarily a puck, but kind of a puck style clutch, would it make a difference if this was a full face ceramic because you'd have more friction area than you do with a clutch style puck?
Surface area doesn't so much come into play as far as torque capacity. It's more the mannerism of the clutch. If this was just like a 4-puck clutch, you would tend to get a little more chatter. But
He says 850 horsepower.
Twin disc.
at the tires,
Yeah. Well,
So probably 650 pound-feet, depending on the
he's
power
probably okay with the twin. And the beauty of it too, you know, we get the twin and you make more power than you think, we can upgrade it to a triple. So, but yeah, like I said, usually the surface area isn't really a factor in torque capacity, but it's more personality. But that's a good question. Very good question.
They can hear the dyno pulling.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
cool. It's a loud Cobra out there, which is we
Why
love
not?
it.
Justin's doing it actually.
Yeah, Justin's out there tuning on the car because we're here with Mr. Gerko doing the thing, but he's very good with the Cobra stuff. So we just you gotta knock the rust out every once in a while. Knock the cobwebs off of the laptop, you know.
Yeah. Make sure there's no driver issues after 6 months of.
Right.
Oh, wow.
It's like Advantage. What?
Just kidding, Justin. We know you tuned Rebecca's car.
John says, installed McLeod RTX on my 17 S550 Roush Phase 2, making 727 flywheel. After 150 miles into break-in through random misfire codes. Nobody could figure out, dealers, Roush, McLeod. Thousands to fix nothing, multiple relearns. Had to go back to Exceedy?
Yeah.
Single disc and no problems. I really want to go with Mantic double disc, but I'm scared he'll have the same problem again. Have you ever come across this issue, and how would you honestly compare your product with McLeod's?
Well, couple things to address here. Again, nothing against the McLeod product. That's not what I'm here to do. You know, our product is constructed with a little higher quality of materials, being the drive blocks, the cover, and the intermediate plate. So it's really kind of a quality-based thing. It's arguably a little nicer way to do it, you know, with our drive block setup versus the McLeod uses straps, and it's actually still kind of a stamped steel or a pressed cover, which again, it's okay. It's just maybe not the ideal way to do it. As far as the codes, what I would do is I would try to get a real-time moment of inertia measurement between the OE setup, the McLeod setup, and now the Exceedy setup, because you've got a very unique or an interesting situation keeps throwing these codes. I don't usually hear of that much of a repetitive issue. Is this something from a tuning side that you guys ever really?
I've heard of the misfire codes with McLeod's a couple times. In the grand scheme of things, it's not very often compared with the amount of cars I see running them, but for the sake of noting, I have heard of that issue before.
Okay.
What I've suspected that it is referencing the weight of the
rotating mass.
Yeah, the rotating mass of the clutch, pressure plate, and flywheel. The only thing I can think of that would cause misfire codes intermittently, even though you're doing crank relearns, would be if like one of the discs is out of, we'll call it 10 grams out, balance on this side, 5 grams on this side. So when you do your crank relearns, the clutch is in a certain position as opposed to the pressure plate.
The balance is moving around.
So it's a moving target that the ECU is not able to compensate for.
Can you ask him what?
You could ask him.
How big a cam is he? I guess I could ask him. I'm new at this. How big a cam is he running?
Stock cam. No.
Most of the mod motor land is stock cams, unless you're talking about a 3-valve or
bump,
built motor stuff.
Okay, because if there's a lot of lumpity and you'll bumpity, that'll
cause issues too.
Yeah, the only thing we could really maybe try to do is get you a little bit more mass on the back of the crank, which does sacrifice performance, but you also get a whole lot more performance if you can drive it instead of having to get the codes cleared all the time. So that maybe. We do have some heavier flywheel options. That might be a good way to go, but I think I'd definitely do a little bit of research and figure out how much mass you've got and try to figure out what's working and maybe work it backwards from there. just because it's such a weird problem.
Peyton says, not clutch related, but what kind of car does Geoff have?
Wait.
Which one?
Let's get ready.
Which one? Yeah. All right. So being that I am a lover of Dodge guys,
Lover of Dodge guys?
Lover of Dodge guys. Yes. Listen. I take it all. I told you I'm a hugger. A 69 GTX 440 car, manual, 74 Dodge W200.
Nice.
A 78 Datsun 280Z with an R5 P7 Dodge NASCAR engine going into it.
Nice. 380 cubic inch, or is that like a little 400?
358?
355.
Man,
355.
that's going to be screaming.
I can't. This will probably be the last time you see me. I'll never get out of it. Let's see. The tried and true Dodge Caliber that I bought new as a manual. Thank you very much.
Rowan gears.
Rowan gears. And that little car climbed Pikes Peak with no issue. So,
nice.
Dodge Journey, a 93 Nissan Sentra. A Formula 500 race car that someday, after I stop loving Dodge guys, I might get back on track.
With a two-stroke 500.
It's a little two-stroke. Check out, you can YouTube Formula 500 on any SEC event, or there's a couple YouTube footage of that.
Scary.
Really like those.
Scary.
They're a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. It's an evil cross between a go-kart and a Formula car.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting...
I like to refer to it as balling on a budget.
Pretty much. You can't go any faster for the money. You really can't.
Mark Germain says, thanks for the great info, Geoff. I'm sold on the Mantic.
Right on. Glad to have you, brother.
Perfect. Just want to get the information out to the people.
Austin says, clutch question. Clutch TOB question. I just had my shop install a 26 spline, spec stage 3 plus clutch, steel flywheel, and new throwout bearing. Had the car for 2 weeks, and when the car is under load in 4, 5, 6, it screams.
It sounds like it's either slipping or the throwout bearing's not adjusted properly. A common thing with Cobras is people put too much preload on the pressure plate fingers, and you reduce the torque capacity.
Yeah, because
so you got to make sure you have that kind of like almost like in play, almost like preload.
The mechanical stuff has to have what's called an air gap. So what you're looking for there is the bearing has to be, maybe we should stand it up. You guys see it this way maybe? So the bearing has to be a certain distance off of the fingers. And what that does is as the clutch wears, these fingers are going to rise and move towards the throwout bearing. So probably, yeah, you're nail on the head. The bearing is probably crashed right up against the fingers, probably too far to where it is depressing the clutch a little bit. And that would make it one. Honestly, it could just be a bad bearing. If the bearing just had enough and is screeching at you, that could be the problem too.
On the on an install note side of things, I kind of already know the answer, but I feel like a lot of people don't. When you're doing a clutch install, are these floaters? Is that what this is called?
Yeah, sorry, that's the Appalachian term coming out. Sorry, the intermediate plate or floaters from.
Is the intermediate plate coated with any type of oil or grease or anything that needs to be removed with?
Absolutely. So
like brake parts cleaner or something like that?
I prefer lacquer thinner because it's a little stronger cleaner, and I mean, let's be honest, nothing lives past the whiz wheel and the lacquer cleaner. So, yeah, you want to do at least a 2 or 3 time wipe down to make sure you get any oils, any fingerprints, anything off the clutch before it's installed. Because what will happen is that's going to contaminate the friction material, and back to the coefficient of friction, you're not going to get as even of a transfer.
Do you have to do any of that with the friction materials themselves?
No, they're pretty tried and true. Our stuff is usually insulated in the kit. You'll see some insulating paper between, but again, it wouldn't hurt. If you got a little lacquer thinner, you can wipe them off and make sure.
And for the medium that you use to get it off, would you recommend like a rag that has cotton fibers, or like a kind of like a Scotch-Brite green pad just to scuff it off?
No, you don't really need a Scotch-Brite. Standard paper towel, shop towels. The key thing is it's disposable. So you're getting the oil off and you're getting it out of the way. If you keep using the same rag, you're going to take it off and put it back on, take it off, put it back on. So that kind of defeats the purpose too. But very good point, Joe. Very good.
Make sure get the intermediate plate completely clean of any oil and the flywheel.
And the flywheel and the pressure ring. We didn't show you guys the pressure ring, but this is the other component, especially in the twins. But yeah, you see there's a little bit of packing stuff on there even. But yeah, you'll get
Okay.
all that off of there.
Gotcha.
Get all that off
I've
of there.
I've seen shops install stuff like that before, and customers have issues, and it's like, did they clean this off or did they let it ride? Because if they let it ride, that's why you're having an issue, or
And
very
usually,
likely why.
Yeah, usually we'll see definitely a glazed disc, and we'll see the material will almost look like it's been smeared on the friction surfaces. Not you want to see like an even grooved, almost like a record. And the pucks themselves will have a little bit of a shine to them, but more like a satiny finish, not a true glossy like it got glazed and whatever else. So yeah, very good point there, Joe. Thank you for bringing that up. Very good.
No problem.
Austin says, Alex, I'm ruining my 04 Cobra by am I ruining my 04 Cobra by installing an air ride? And then he also says, is the OEM throwout bearing better for it or the aftermarket one? And I didn't choose the clutch. They, quote, recommended it.
Okay, I'll answer the air ride question. I'll let him answer the throwout bearing stuff. You're probably improving it because the Cobra suspension sucks that much. It's really, it drives like garbage and it's a piece of junk.
Resuscitate.
Kidding. No, the Cobra actually drives pretty good. If you want to put air ride on it, man, go. I don't care, man. Who cares, really?
It's your car.
It's your car. You want to slam it down and put Lambo doors on it, and don't make fun of Lambo doors if you're slamming it, because you're kind of doing the same thing. But whatever. No, you're not ruining it. You're just probably just becoming like every other millennial out there.
But what about the Lincoln Mark 7 LSC?
Yeah, it came factory with air ride.
Yeah.
Right. But these guys put air ride to drop it down, and then they say, well,
but
they don't steal my wheels, so I can just slam it all the way down. They can't steal my wheels.
What about the guy that's doing it from a function standpoint?
Off the ground.
No, it's stupid.
Okay.
No, you put air ride on your car, you're stupid. How's that?
Oh wow. Well, there you have it.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah,
about
you're
it.
asking me.
I know.
Hey,
I know.
oh, hey, ho.
Thought this was the holding back episode. In regards to the throwout bearing, you specify which clutch he has?
I didn't see it.
So all of our kits come with a brand new OE throwout bearing. We have a pretty light pedal effort. We're not putting any additional load on the hydraulic system, and the OE stuff is tested to run 100,000 miles anyway, so that's a pretty safe bet. There are some good aftermarket options out there. With our stuff, it's certainly not necessary, and one's already included in your kit anyhow. So I would say if you must go aftermarket, Powertrain Technology has a good setup. Tilton always has a good setup, but it's a little difficult to actually set up.
Two people at the exact same time, sorry, said, oh, there's yellow. We haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm feeling better.
Another install-related question that I think would benefit the audience. The splines on the transmission, would you recommend cleaning the splines from the old friction material, like dust? And if you do clean them, is there any lubricant you'd recommend using on the spline surface?
Absolutely, clean everything. Clean everything. You want to make sure the discs can freely slide on the splines, no resistance. I hope everybody pays very close attention to what I'm about to say. So only a minimal amount of like a dry ceramic-based lubricant is what you want to lose. If I say a little bit, you put a little drop on your finger, wipe it all around, take a rag and wipe it back off. You just want to get because what's going to happen is the input shaft is in the exact center of the clutch. And as everything spins,
It flings out.
any lube is going to go all over the place. So all that time you took cleaning your clutch and your discs is going to be wasted because you're going to fling grease all over it. And as I've had to explain to some people, this is a dry clutch, not a wet clutch. It will not work. So yeah, you don't want to get any contaminants on it.
To that same end, would a PTFE-based lubricant fall under that category?
That'd be fine. Again, so long as you're getting the majority of it back off. You know, all this stuff was designed to work pretty much just metal to metal. You've got ample clearance between the teeth of the spline and the shaft where it engages. But you know, a little ceramic base or PTFE is fine. Like I said, as long as you just get it back off of there.
Yeah.
So don't lube the shaft too much because it'll just splatter all over the place.
Pretty much. Pretty much. You want to make sure it's in before it splatters.
Got it.
That's
Yeah.
been my experience. But
Hey-o.
Or is it make sure that it's out before
But he
it's
said it's dry.
it depends, really. You know, it
Depends on the transmission.
depends on the transmission and how expensive you really want that to be.
Jason is saying,
And
what
then-
clutch do you recommend for a 14 GT TVS car with around 265 wheel horsepower? We want
TVS
something
car?
with good
265.
drivability since it's mainly a weekend cruise car and maybe a time or two at the track a year.
If he said TVS, it's not 265 wheel.
Maybe
it's got to be like
665?
660 or something.
Oh, 625.
Got it.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's a little
Sorry.
different.
Did I read that wrong? Sorry.
I actually had that exact same setup. I had when my car was on an 82 millimeter pulley, made 650 wheel. I had the stock clutch, and the stock clutch would lock me out at 7,000 RPMs. It just wouldn't disengage properly. Put the Mantic in there, all of my troubles went away, like legit, totally went away.
Right
so I'm a Mantic guy. I know some people like the RST. I'm not a big fan on a TVS because of the organic material. I just don't think it has the holding power. But I would always recommend a Mantic 9000 on a setup like that.
Yeah, if you're going to be doing some track days, it's worth going the Ceremetallic route just so you'll have a little extra clutch capacity. And you're really not sacrificing any drivability with our stuff between the organic and the Ceremetallic. The Ceremetallic, as you guys have felt, it does drive a little different, i.e. it does engage a little quicker. But the difference in your day-to-day between the organic and the Ceremetallic is, in organic, you kind of can continually move your foot as the car starts to pull away. The Ceremetallic, what I tell most people to do is as soon as you feel the car start to move, just stop moving your foot.
Right.
Let the clutch do its thing, go about your business. And it'll be smooth as butter all day.
Someone says, Alex, they need more videos of the red car laying down some ass gappins.
I'm trying. It's
I took a video of it last night.
He took a good video of it last night. Did a 60 roll, and it just laid marks down the street. So it's coming up. I'm going to go to the track hopefully tomorrow locally, and then I'm going to be at Bradenton Spring Break Shootout, competing in True Street hopefully. But I'm going to be doing some testing, as much testing as I can. Look, the time's the enemy here, but we'll get there. Don't worry.
Nick says, have you guys seen anyone do new cam profiles and or ported and polished heads on the GT350? If so, results and concerns and issues on doing that, such as severe drivability issues, etc.
No.
I don't have any experience with that.
Zero. No one's doing that yet, honestly. The 15 head gets ported and polished by people like Brett Barber and them, and then, for boosted applications, turbo, TVS, GT350. Honestly, man, in my opinion, that's one of those cars you buy and you race. You don't really mess with. Ford only spent, I don't know, a couple $1 million developing the car, so I think it's kind of going to do its thing. If you want to throw a boost at it, that's on you. It makes power, whatever. But if
I don't know how much I'd try to squeeze out of it in a...
No, I would just get it on the track and just work on your driving skills.
Throw some good octane in it.
Yeah, that's it.
Throw a decent tune in it.
And let it rip.
Let it have fun.
Yeah. If you want to go fast, like in a straight line, you want to make big boy horsepower, the GT350, in my opinion, is just not for you.
We're at about an hour, so I'd like to go ahead and kind of roll through some
Sure.
of these other
Go for
questions
it.
and see if we can start getting some of them knocked out.
Yep, that'll work. Rapid fire. This is the rapid fire.
Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
this is a rapid fire. Solar Racing
Get your
Miller
buzzers.
says, hi Alex, I recently purchased a tune from VMP Sunday, specifically asked for you. Wants to know what's the likely of the turnaround time?
Turnaround time is 7 to 10 business days from when it was ordered. This is the busy season now. Understand, this is now busy season. Tax time, people balling on a budget. They're out there trying to get tunes, trying to expedite stuff. So 7 to 10 business days from when it was ordered, I'll try to get you as soon as possible.
Adam says, shout out to Alex. Brian Bond needs more power from his VMP.
Okay. Get better fuel.
Kevin says, looking to possibly get my stock intake manifold ported by Brett Barbers. Wanted to know if there will be a noticed difference on a full bolt-on 2014 GT over a stock manifold, or is it better to just buy a Boss or Cobra Jet?
Oh, you're going to save a lot more money with a ported intake manifold. I just don't know what kind of gains you're looking for. I don't think you're going to gain 20, but you might gain 10 to 12, maybe 15. So.
Yeah.
Kelly says, what catch cam would you recommend for an F-150 Coyote? Everything I find mounts high on the firewall.
You could do UPR stuff. I'm not sure. I think they offer everything for EcoBoost, boosted F-150 and NA F-150. But there's a bunch of other catch cam manufacturers out there. Just make sure that's something that has a really good filter, some kind of check valve mechanism so it doesn't, get rid of the oil and then suck it right back in. So anything that, I like UPR stuff with the big reservoir and the built-in check valve. That's my go-to.
And I believe the UPR to his end of firewall mounted. I believe the UPR is mounted in the, almost like the grill area, at least on the EcoBoost trucks.
Yes, almost where the S550 is, like down in there in that little void.
Yep.
You see how I did that little void down?
The void down in the pocket.
Joseph says, any experience with the 6R80 plug-in trans brake? Not having higher line pressure when engaged worries me.
I do not trust digital trans brakes.
Ta-da!
There you go.
Gary says, with my CJ setup on E85, I can run it all the way to 8K. Should I consider upgrading the valve train, or is that even worth it?
The valve train in terms of the valve spring retainers and the valve springs themselves?
Or the cams.
Or cams?
If you're going to rev it that high...
All of the above.
Yeah, if you're going to live up there, sure. Yeah, I would absolutely, try to... You're going to weaken the valve train revving it up there all the time. It's not meant to go all the way up there. So if you might want to look into it, get a set of heads, do it outside of the car, don't do it on the car. Or if you can do it, get ready to have some clips in your oil pan. But
those retainers, though.
Yeah, I would definitely look into upgrading the valve train if you're going to be living in that RPM range a long time.
David says, breather catch can set up with open PCVs pipe to it, or catch can with factory passenger side PCV to manifold vacuum. Hope this isn't confusing y'all.
I think I know what he's saying.
I don't like atmosphere vent if you have anything hooked up to any type of vacuum source, whether it just be minimal vacuum source when it's post-MAF, pre-throttle body, or speed density if it's in the charge pipe after the MAP sensor. I don't like vent to atmosphere stuff unless you're doing race car stuff. And then if you're doing vent to atmosphere, make sure the entire system is vented to atmosphere, not one portion of it.
Then it's just a vacuum leak at that point.
Exactly.
Charlie says, for FBONA Gen 1 Coyote, what is next for me? LMR cams? Or should I save and go boost? I'd love cams, but for $1,500, is it worth it? And if I do cams, what else should I do while it's torn apart? Correction, L&M cams, not LMR.
I'd say for boost, in my opinion. Whether you're probably 3,000, if you're say 1,500 for cams, the gains are 25 to 30 wheel on pump gas, the 85 maybe a little more. But if you save up for another year, you'll have 600 rear wheel horsepower. Like that. No messing around with the stock cams and the stock drivability. So 600 rear wheel horsepower or high 400s.
Could really go either way.
Exactly. Yeah.
John says, ever think of dabbling in torque converters for automatics?
Dabbling? I'll just dabble in them. No. Or does he mean Jeff? Do you mean, does he mean...
Was that a clutch related question?
I think, well, there's clutches in it.
It's a wet clutch.
It's a wet clutch.
Give you
so I'm thinking it's just a question for you, not us.
Yeah, probably. No, not really. I mean, the torque converter design criteria is much different than the dry clutch setup.
Because you're talking turbines versus mechanical objects.
And turbulence. And for what it's worth, the direction that I see things going is probably going somewhat away from the traditional torque converter and going more like the Porsche PDK or the DSG of VWs, which are essentially automated manuals, a similar dry or wet clutch with a manual transmission. The efficiencies are a little greater. Then again, ZF has been making...
I love that.
That's great.
Loud car. Go ahead. Yeah,
but ZF has been making an outstanding traditional type automatic. They're 7, 8, 9 speeds now. So, but yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to go the route of dabbling with torque converters.
There you go.
Sorry.
John also came back and said Mantic should make torque converters. Just saying.
Nice.
Corey wants to know the comparison between Mantic Clutch versus the Tiltons.
Okay. So Tilton's strong suit is the smaller, like a 7 1/4, more of like a road race only clutch. Even got some 5 1/2s, which we do as well, but that really is a race only type clutch. It's on or off. It's not designed to be slipped. It's pretty much a dump and run. You're going to use it to get you out of the pits, and if you're doing it right on the racetrack, you're never really touching the clutch again until you come back in.
Yep.
So kind of an apples and oranges. Our 7 1/4s are, again, very similar. We're probably a little lighter weight. We've got some direct fitment options. But you can't really compare a 9,000 Mantic to a Tilton setup. They're really kind of a different product.
Very good.
Robert says, I have a single turbo Cobra making 1100 wheel with a T56 Magnum. Does Mantic make a clutch good for my combo?
Damn Skippy, they do.
Yeah.
Triple disc.
That's triple disc.
What that
right
torque
there.
do? Because he said 1100 horsepower.
Horsepower.
So you're
1100
probably.
wheel horsepower.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
so-
that's.
I mean, he's probably 800-900 pound-feet on a turbo car.
But again, the way that it's going to make power. It's
Is
gonna
it
be
a
quick
76
ramp.
that comes up
I
at
would
$5
imagine.
grand all of a sudden, or is it a
Probably.
60, like a set of twin 62s?
He's a single.
That come on like.
He said
progressive?
single, so it's got to
Big
be
single,
it's
yeah.
got to be a big.
Yeah,
big-
1100 wheel and a single. It's
Triple disc.
probably
seems to
single
be-
80
Yeah,
T6 flange.
We have a car here that makes above 1,000
Something,
torque
something.
and above 1,000 rear horsepower, and it's got a triple disc in it, and it's been holding it for 7-8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been doing fine.
And the thing is too, like I've said before, it's use and abuse. It's probably better to have a little more clutch capacity than maybe what the exact numbers dictate you need.
Right.
But that way, that'll make sure you actually put the power to the ground and don't, burn through a twin and be mad at me.
Sorry, he came back and said 920 wheel torque, 83 millimeter turbo.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Triple, we think a triple disc.
I'd
will
stick with
work
the
well.
triple. Dilly dilly, triple, dilly dilly.
Chard says, how important is it to have a balanced assembly with a clutch plus flywheel on a Coyote, meaning having the flywheel and clutch assembly balanced together?
All of our stuff is neutral balanced out of the box, so the difference to the overall rotating assembly is going to be, I think, very negligible, not meaning much.
Yeah.
You guys know more about the internals of the 5.0 than I do, but yeah, our stuff is already coming zero balanced.
Yeah.
It was zero balanced from the factory, so I certainly wouldn't pull the crank out, as much fun as that is, and balance everything at once.
Right.
I don't see any real gain to it.
Not
No, that'd be something you'd really do on an external balance engine as opposed
Yeah.
to an internal balance engine.
Yeah.
An internal, you just make sure that everything's zero and you're good. With that being said, do you guys balance the cover separate of the flywheel assemblies? Like, are the covers zero balanced?
Yeah.
The flywheel assemblies zero balanced?
Yep.
So
Yep.
they're not a matched pair zero balance at a certain indexing.
What we do is everything kind of falls within a tighter tolerance of being zero balance. So yes, in theory, you can spin everything around, but you're only going to get, I mean, a
couple
point.
grams from center.
Yeah, a point, much or nothing. If anybody ever wants it, I mean, balanced to the nth degree, I've got a couple machine shops. We put on the crank balancer and we get it down to O double nothing, which matters but doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Corey, who had asked the question regarding the Mantic versus Tilton's, wants to know what the highest torque capacity clutch you have.
Right now, for sale, the triple we have with the upgraded centered iron discs, which is the
Go ahead, sorry.
nasty of nasty. You guys like that, didn't you?
Idiocracy.
Probably about 1,800 foot-pounds. When we come out with the quad, that'll be about the 2,000 mark, plus or minus. But
He said it's for a 1,300 wheel horsepower GT500 5.4 liter wheel.
How much torque does it make? Because that's what matters. It's the torque. Forget the horsepower.
Torque.
So the triple.
Torque,
probably the
torque.
triple with the centered iron, unless if he's gunning just for a dyno number, the sprung hub triple will probably get it done. But if he's really launching it and whipping it, probably centered iron. Just make sure.
Oh, this info is great.
You like that?
Oh, I love it. Trust me, I'm like,
I'm going to go ahead and shoot over to YouTube because we've got a bunch of questions over there. Anything that's remaining on Facebook,
Joel
we'll
handled.
have Joel go back and
How are those shares and likes? Because that determines that.
15 shares,
boo.
Nah.
32 likes.
You gotta pump
Man.
those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers.
Yeah.
Man.
So,
Get that up to
but
30.
Anyway, I'm going to head over to YouTube, so anything on Facebook is going to wait at this point.
Yep.
We still love you, Facebook. Don't worry.
We do, but YouTube questions disappear once we
In the
finish
feed.
going live.
Yeah.
Israel wants to know, what clutch do you recommend for 08 GT500 with the basic bolt-ons with a larger blower in the future that can handle Autobahn high speeds?
Autobahn.
Oh, well now.
Does the clutch care about vehicle speed?
It really doesn't. I mean,
Okay.
if you're approaching 202 miles an hour, where your aerodynamic load really starts to stack up, actually that'd be about 150, but still, no, clutch doesn't matter. I would
rhetorical question for the people.
Yeah,
I think everyone sitting behind here knows that.
Wait a minute. He's wrong.
Hold on. Get him out of there. No, probably it sounds
phony,
like
he's a phony.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's
pull his mic back up.
Moron.
I can see it now. My inbox is filling up.
Right.
No, probably the twin for what he's doing. Sounds like he's doing more higher speed runs. If he has a torque number, we can better match it. But
yeah, I mean, most of the aftermarket blower GT500s are sub 800 on a pump fuel.
yeah, that's what I was guessing.
So the torque with GT500s on a pump fuel is usually about 50, 80 pound-feet less than horsepower.
Okay.
So probably in the 700 to 800 range in torque.
Twin will get it done all day long.
Sweet.
Chris has the exact same question, only he gave some specs on his car. It's got a VMP Gen 2R, E85, 750-ish to the crank, road race car.
Road race, GT500.
He's got it's an 08 GT500 with a 13 GT500 engine transmission. So what would you recommend clutch-wise?
He only gets 2 laps in before he gets heat soaked.
Yeah, it's going to get hot. 1 bag of ice with each. No, actually, I would say let's run with the solid hub, Ceremetallic disc. If you're road racing it, if you're left foot braking or heel towing, little less rotational mass on the disc. It'll help it shift a little bit quicker.
Okay.
And it'll be a little more durable too. The problem we have when you're road racing with the springs, you're really kind of beating them up when you're downshifting. So you're doubling the load on those springs and kind of whips them pretty good. That's why we have a solid hub.
I'm going to kind of just run through these. So some of these are going to be speed questions, guys.
Okay.
Tristan says, okay, changed my tires on my stock 18 10R80 from the 18-inch to the 20-inch wheels. Fried my PCM. Do I have to have a tune to run bigger tires? My car isn't the performance pack.
I don't know what the
Not
hell.
necessarily, and just because you change from an 18 to a 20 doesn't mean the overall diameter of the tires changed much, especially when you're talking OE tire size versus OE tire size, with the only difference there being the wheel diameter and the aspect ratio. The stock tires are pretty close in overall diameter, so you shouldn't have to change the configuration of speedo or gear ratio or anything like that to account for that.
Lou says he's looking to purchase soon. Should he go with a 17 or 18 Coyote for a reliable street but killer at the track as well?
It depends on how quickly you want to go fast. If you want to buy the car today and go 9s tomorrow, get a 17. If you're going to do a slow progressive build, the 18s are a great car.
They're already running 10s and A. Boosted, they're running 9s. But the S550, you can have like 4 different power adders to run 9s.
Yeah, you have a lot more options in terms of aftermarket support on the 15 to 17 cars as of today. The 18 cars, as we go through the next couple years, people will develop their specific kits and all the stuff that needs to go along with that stuff, and you'll have more proven combos at that point. So again, if you're wanting to build a car today, tomorrow, within the next couple months, I'd pick up a 15 to 17 car. If you're going to do a slow progressive build, probably put a power adder on it in 2 years, buy an 18.
You can get a California Special GT 16, 17 under $30,000.
Wow.
And that's like fully loaded, really nice car. So take that for what it's worth.
Steven says, okay, I just spent $28,000 in parts, Hellion Twins, 55S, and so much more to put the power into the ground.
Okay.
My question is, my 15 Mustang GT, is it smart to run 900 horsepower to the wheels or not? I have OPG and Sprock.
Is it
It depends on the fuel you're using.
Yeah.
I mean, 900 wheel
on a stock long block minus the OPGs? You're just
asking for a lot.
It's just it's a stock rotating assembly built in mass, and it wasn't like blueprinted and laid out nicely. So anything can happen at any time. Is it smart? No. Can it do it for a while? Probably. But it's not smart to run 900 horse through a stock rotating assembly.
Yeah. And
OPGs don't care when the rod comes out. Rod's like, peace.
And referencing what we did with 2650, it isn't something that I ever recommend anyone doing. Kind of like a don't try this at home.
Right.
But for the sake of seeing what it would do, we did it.
Yep.
Potato says 14 Mustang GT with 80,000 miles. Would the Stage 2 kit be okay to install with that many miles? If not, would I need to upgrade, replace?
Yes, I had a 115,000 mile Coyote, and I put the kit on with about 50 or 60, and drove another 60 with it. Not an issue as long as you keep boost in a good spot, as long as you stay off of the limiter, and as long as you don't drive like a total idiot. Seriously, a lot of people and good fuel, yes, 93. Yeah. People go, well, I got 91 or Costco. No, man, 93 anywhere and everywhere you go. If you don't have 93 available in your area, get some octane booster. That's what makes them live a long time. Good fuel, not driving like a hoon. You should be good.
And good fuel is really cheap insurance. I mean,
yeah, I can't believe some people buy a Stage 2 kit, the full catalog of suspension, and then they go, well, I'm on 91
There's some
octane.
87.
Yeah. 88, yeah.
72 millimeter pulley, 91 octane.
Oh my God.
No.
Bad. Says, I'm undecided if I'm going to stay naturally aspirated with Cobra Jet intake or forced induction VMP Gen 2. Okay. Should I upgrade my cams and oil pump before I do one or the other? Sorry for the questions.
I feel like
it doesn't match up with what we're talking about.
I feel like that's the guy from Facebook earlier.
So he wants to know whether to go to a Gen 2 or a full deal Cobra Jet setup.
The Gen 2 is going to make more power, period.
And torque.
And whether or not you should go either route is something you have to have a conversation with yourself about.
Yes.
Because the Gen 2 route may end up costing more depending on how crazy you get naturally aspirated. But your end result is going to be a more powerful car that makes more average power everywhere compared to a naturally aspirated setup.
Ryan wants to know, can you guys give your 10 cents on the ID 1050X?
Great injectors.
Great injector, great data. When they came out, when we got the proper data, it was plug and play, just like ID 1000, ID 725, ID 1300s. It's just plug and play, and
they work.
Right, and they just work. That's why we like them.
Angel says, would it be more cost effective to just swap a 15 to 17 long block or build the motor on my 13 GT? It currently has 57,000 miles.
Depends on how you do it. If you do it yourself, it can be more cost effective to throw rods and pistons in yourself as opposed to buying a 15 to 17 short block and swapping it in. If you're paying someone else to do it, cost effective, the 15 to 17 short block's a great option, but keep in mind you're leaving some durability on the table by sticking with a stock rod and piston.
Tyler says...
My bad, dog.
It's all good.
Footsie.
I'm a hugger.
What? Are we all good?
Yeah.
We're better.
Touching tips under the table.
Yeah.
Oh, please don't.
It's like lightsaber wars under here.
Please don't.
Who's got the green lightsaber?
Nice.
Red light, green light. Tyler says, 16 F-150 50. What is your opinion on a performance flex fuel tune that can adjust automatically from 87 to 93 octane, as well as varying blends of E85?
That's fine. I mean, that's just the octane learn adjustment and the octane adjust ratio and the ability for it to correct for stoic point. I mean, it'll work fine.
Yep. They do that stock, I think.
Yeah.
But done.
Yeah.
If you want to rebrand it, then
right,
fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Jess wants to know how much have you worked with carbon and how can be used pros and cons? Second question, what is the official date of the Gen 3's drop for the 03?
I'd say just go to the next question.
Yeah,
I don't understand what he's saying.
Yeah,
how much have you worked with carbon?
Bit Papa says carbon fiber drive shaft. Is it worth it?
Depends on what you're using it on. I mean,
we have a 1314 GT500 out there with the stock drive shaft, which is carbon fiber that does just fine. But people want us to quantify worth. And that's not something we can do.
Yeah, it's hard to...
The value of something is what you put on it. And how much it's worth is, at the end of the day, up to you.
Yeah.
Somebody that makes $1 million a year can sit there and say, it's not worth it for me to cook my own food because I would rather pay someone else to do it.
I'm not a millionaire and I do that now.
I will pay $40,000 a year to have someone cook my food for me.
Could you imagine?
I couldn't do that. That's not worth it to me.
It's so good. It's worth it to me. I'm like, yeah, steak, bathroom, let's go. Mom, bathroom.
So to answer your question in short, worth, you decide. The gain between aluminum and carbon fiber is going to be minimal. And if you're not building a road race car where every pound to you is worth $2,000 a pound, I would say just get the aluminum drive shaft, but your decision.
Yeah.
Ryan says opinions on the Holly Sniper intake manifold.
Patrick Beasley did okay with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, the intake works.
Yeah, it does. It does pretty well.
If you want an aluminum intake that can take a bit more boost than a Boss intake or a Cobra Jet, good option. If you can find a Hughes Boss or a Hughes Cobra Jet, honestly, I'd go that route before I went with the Holly.
Yep.
But if you're buying new, it's not a bad option.
Slab Shack, who's a regular watcher, says with the torque lines on the 2650 dyno video, we all need a new clutch. Cheers.
You're not wrong.
You ain't lying. And that car, for the record, has a Mantic twin disc.
Twin disc. Yes.
And it held.
And it held 14, 15 runs.
Yep.
Solid.
So Austin, who was talking about the air ride earlier, says no Lambo doors, but he wants to be the fastest air ride Cobra in the States.
What a weird
That's a micro record.
man. The micro records of micro records.
But have fun with it.
You know,
Go
have
do
at
it.
it, man.
I mean,
Put an air ride in it, have fun, and what the hell do you want me to tell you, man? I love you. I can't. I can't.
Not as much as I love the Dodge guys, but he loves you.
Yeah,
Just remember.
I can't. Sorry.
Jane says, thinking about switching tuners this season on my TVS 50, what would you guys recommend when trying to narrow down a tuning company to go with, such as VMP, Palm Beach, Dyno, Palm Beach Dyno, AED?
I would not only look at the level of customer interaction that you get on the front end before you make the purchase, but get with some people that have tunes from all these different people and look at how much customer interaction you get on the back end
After
the money's been collected.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely look at that. Any of those options are good options in my opinion. I don't think anyone would intentionally do you wrong in any of those, any of that circle. But if you're currently tuned by someone, before you go and spend the money getting tuned elsewhere, I would recommend making sure that whatever you're looking to change or whatever you're doing is something that your current tuner can't handle, because I'd hate to see you spend money unnecessarily.
Right.
Austin came back. He was talking earlier. He said, I asked about the OEM versus aftermarket because he heard to stay with OEM with certain clutches.
And I'd agree. I don't really like the adjustable pilot bearing, or not pilot bearings, but throwout bearings.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, the OEs put a lot of time and effort making sure stuff doesn't break or it lasts the duration that it needs. It's kind of if you switch to a race-only tilt and clutch, yeah, you probably got to run their bearing. If you're sticking with something like ours or another kind of OE-based clutch, yeah, just stick with the OE bearing. It's probably gonna make your life a lot easier.
There you go.
Peyton says, how hard is power shifting on a clutch?
Power shifting is actually not hard on the clutch at all because you don't really touch the clutch. But
it's very hard on the
it's very hard on the transmission. The only, dare I even say, safe way to do it, because there's no safe way to do it unless you spent 20 grand on a fully sequential, you can rip and grip all day long.
Right.
If at the exact instant the engine hits rev limiter or has a soft cutout on it, and you unload everything and it goes into the gear, it'll do that for decades and be fine.
Yep.
So
It's
the
very
torque
hard to do.
reduction is key. Getting the torque to either a zero, well, ideally zero torque, not negative torque, not positive torque.
Correct. And that's what makes it so hard, because it's literally like all the planets have to align for that split second, and you have to be good enough to. That's why they came up with sequential trans, because nobody except for maybe Jimmy Clark, Michael Schumacher, and Ayrton Senna could get it right every time. It's the way it is.
I have no idea who those people are.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
John says, are there any installation idiosyncrasies for Mantic that a regular shop needs to keep in mind?
A couple things that we do differently. You'll notice that the bolts on most of our kits will pass through the back of the flywheel. This gives you a stud to hang the drive blocks on, makes your life a lot easier. Alex will probably attest to this. Aside from cleaning everything, which you should do well with any clutch, we like to keep the pads of the disc in line with each other. There's a full set of instructions with each kit, which will kind of lay all this out to you. So nothing too earth-shattering, couple things to pay attention to. I mean, you guys have done the installs. You guys can probably answer better than me.
It's been pretty straightforward.
These are the only thing I'll say is they both have chamfered edges on either side, but when you're lining them up in the flywheel, when they're sitting down in the recesses, make sure that as you're going around and tightening them all, none of them popped out a tiny bit and got clogged.
Oh yeah,
because then you'll have a cover plate that is no longer flat. And as I'm bringing it around and tightening it, I don't like to tighten any one side significantly more than the other.
Star pattern it.
Yeah.
Little bit.
And to work your way down, we'll say like go around it like 3 times, and as you're doing that, rotate the flywheel around so that you can make sure all the blocks are aligned before you get it. Before you get this side tightened down all the way and notice that one of the drive blocks is clocked wrong, and then get yourself a little indentation in the plate that doesn't allow it to sit completely square anymore or anything like that.
There is already a little machined lip right here on the inside, and you can pretty much get things lined up. Yeah, Joe's 100% right. Double check and double check and double check to make sure they stay where you want them to stay.
Have you ever seen during like rebuilds or anything where someone pretty clearly had one of the drive blocks misaligned when they put the clutch together?
You would not believe some of the things I've seen.
I suppose it's a very vague question with a very easy answer.
What we usually see is the bolts on the back side of the flywheel will be out of the groove.
Right.
So instead of the bolt fitting into the slot, it's turned and the points are drawn into the flywheel, which technically works fine. Just makes it a little harder. Not exactly what we want, but at the end of the day, it will still work. But no, usually I'll see a couple where the drive blocks got turned out of position, but that's not usually a big issue. But I'm not saying you're special.
No. I
mean, you are.
I'm saying just make sure that when you're installing it that doesn't happen, because I have seen once or twice where you're going around and you notice that, this one kind of came out. Just let me wiggle it here real quick, get it back down before bringing it all the way down.
And a couple of our Mustang kits where the bolts actually thread into the flywheel, that's a little more prevalent.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're at just over 3 o'clock.
Right.
I have a couple more clutch questions I'd like to get through.
Sure.
With Geoff being here. And anything else, I'm going to tell everybody, if you have a question,
get those shares up, bud.
On YouTube.
You got to pump those numbers up.
Yes.
Yep.
On YouTube, once the video goes what we call, I guess, prime time, re-ask your questions, because your questions will disappear once the live show is over. If you're on Facebook, don't worry about it. They'll get to you when they can get to you. But if you're on YouTube, make sure you re-ask your questions. With that said, Grant wants to know, what clutch and tire would you recommend for a 17 GT full bolt-on Cobra Jet 6-speed?
Well, auto or manual?
Yeah.
Although he's asking which clutch.
Clutch
I'm
and
going.
tire.
Got it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Clutch and tire for a manual, full bolt-on S550.
Tire, always as much tire as you can get, but...
what kind of material would you recommend on something that's a stick car? If you're going to do...
It's a U5 compound.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I'm kind of a fan of the Michelin Pilot Sports. Those are an excellent tire. I've had mixed luck with the drag radials. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Yes, especially...
The old 555s were good, but I don't think you get the 555s anymore.
Try the Toyo R88s.
Oh, really?
I'm not a fan of R88.
But see, I'm more of a road race guy.
When you're over 700
that's
wheels...
a road race tire.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
They're the wet compound that a lot of race teams use in
Oh,
SCCA.
okay. Okay, yeah,
So
there you
they're
go.
decent and wet, and they're kick-ass and dry.
They're just hard enough to...
I love them.
But clutch-wise, again, depending on power, probably a twin. That's probably where he's at.
There you go. A twin.
Corboy wants to know if Mantic accepts Affirm payments.
I'm sorry, what?
Affirm?
Affirm is a company that you can use.
You firmly accept cash?
I thought he said farm, and I'm like, well, yeah, run the steer on by, but that's not quite. Affirm.
Affirm.
Is
that like Bitcoin?
Yeah, I was offered Bitcoin twice since I've been doing it.
And you're like, hell to the no.
I'm like, wait a minute. Well, I want to see where, the shares are going up there for a while.
Right.
Well, I'll chance it. Yeah, we should be able to accept Affirm. Should be able to. Should.
John says you guys are the best with customer service.
Mantic.
Wow.
Mantic.
Well, thank you. Thank you, John.
We're assholes.
Yeah, you guys, I tell you.
We come on here and we do a show every week.
Right,
and we do another
give you
show.
all this information.
You make it look all nice and fluffy, and then... This is the first time Alex and I have talked in, what, a year now?
A year? I think I yelled at you. Oh, no, Seema.
Yeah, Seema.
I think, oh no, here we go. Chris Bouchard says, what in the factory S550 clutch causes high RPM lockout?
Beautiful. Good question.
Well, I think, if memory serves me correctly, I've got to take a look at the one I got on my bench. It's been a little while. I think it's just a matter of mass. I think there's just too much stuff spinning too fast. Because I think we start seeing problems at about the 75 500 mark.
Hell, some at
I mean,
7.
that's
some at 7. They just
68, 75, somewhere in there. I think it's just too much rotating mass, and the trans can't relax. Kind of like the zero torque example you gave. I think that's probably what's going on. I'd have to look at one and spin it real good and see what we got, honestly.
I'm just looking here to see what we have that might be clutch related.
Sure.
it could be non-clutch related. It could be like, picks for college basketball tonight or something.
Oh, wow, there you go.
Well, I mean,
Gambling,
I
sure.
have a few questions here. If you wanted to try and run through them, but it's 5
Oh,
past
no,
3.
yeah.
All right.
Tell them to
We're
get the
just
shares
playing,
up.
dog.
Yeah, really.
I have a 2012 5.0 with headers X-Pipe Cobra Jet, 47 injectors, manual. Do I need anything else to run E85 every now and then? Currently using 93.
The 85 tune would be nice.
Yeah. That'll definitely do it.
The 85 tune. No, you sound like you have the right part selected, so just get tuned by your favorite tuner out there and let her rip. Tater chip.
77 Ford Bug says he's got a 15 Mustang Auto, staying in A, wanting 11s. Which rear gears? 331s, 355s, 373. Currently have 315.
315 with a converter. And it should get you 11s. We had our TRZ's car. I think it had 315s or 355s.
I'd have to look back at the file. It may have been 355s.
But first gear's 410 on that 6R80.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's
Oh.
the-
And you're
Yeah,
running
it's
like
like,
a 27.5-inch tall tire, so
Jesus
it's not too
Maria.
bad.
Yeah, so
Wow.
we've seen many automatic 315 cars with a converter run 11s with good sweet fuel.
Although for the micro analyzers, it's 417.1.
Oh, 417 first gear. Sorry, not 410.
Does it just hang in second gear like all the way down the track like a
No,
power glide?
it's actually it goes third and into fourth if you boost it,
Oh, wow.
but
Okay.
it stays in third if you're NA.
Okay.
Matt says, I have an 07 GT500 doing upgrades. Can you remote tune over the aftermarket tune that's already on the car?
Yes.
Ken says, hello, would you upgrade the drive shaft to a one-piece when adding a VMP supercharger stage 2?
Absolutely.
It's always a good idea, but not necessary.
Not necessary, but if you're gonna do some sticky track stuff, I'd recommend
Then you're going
not
from
pretzeling this shaft.
360-ish pound-feet of torque up to 530, I'd say almost minimum.
Drive shaft.
Chard says, on a boosted E85 tune, if you fill with a bad batch of E85, does the tune ECU pull timing automatically, or is there an absolute need to check the E85 before filling?
The tune will not pull timing based on ethanol content. It will
Right.
pull timing based on what it sees going on in the combustion chamber. Or
Right.
it doesn't directly see that, but you get the point.
Pull fuel, but it won't pull if it's rich.
And I've never really seen a necessarily bad batch of E85. I've seen where they advertise it as being up to E85.
It's E70.
And
or
it's
some shit.
E70.
Right.
The amount of spark the engine will take, E85 to E70, usually isn't very great in disparity there. So the only real issue with a quote-unquote bad batch or a lower ethanol content fuel is that your car will be 5-8% richer, sometimes 10-20, depending on what your ethanol content is in the fuel. If you're down at E54 and you're tuned for E85, that's when you'll be closer to that like 20% difference.
But timing won't be pulled because E54 you can shove the same amount of spark as you can on
Yeah,
E85.
and it's not like a GM car, and most aftermarket tuners don't enable the stoic learning or the flex fuel logic. So it's not going to learn flex fuel logic, and it's not going to know what the actual stoic point is on an E85 tune. So you no longer have that modifier of spark based on the stoic point. It's all set up in the tune.
Racer X says, how much power do you guys see on a S550 with Roush supercharger with 79mm pulley, and what quarter-mile time do you normally see with drag radials with a 6R80?
On that car? Alex Verserovic went 1040s or 1060s with a 47.
Bob Grover went 1050s or 1040s.
Bob Grover went 1050s and 40s with a ET Street R, 305, 45, 17.
If your
catalytic converters and...
If your fuel quality is not great, closer to the 1090, 1070 region, you got a good 93 in it, 1070s, 1050s. You got really good quality fuel or 93 with Torco. I've seen 1050s, 1030s. But at the end of the day, different track, different conditions. What's your
Weather,
DA?
right.
How's your car 60 foot?
Right.
There's more to that equation than just the specific setup of the car, but the specific circumstances around when you're taking the car to the track, what your downstream air temps are. All that stuff kind of play a factor.
Wanslow says, thoughts on Paxton 2200 SL with 333 pulley, full bolt on E85 stock motor, 1550.
Yeah.
The thoughts are it should make power.
It should make a good power. It's a good head unit. I just wish their belt routing was better and you didn't have to carry around a bunch of clamps all the time to keep everything tight. But
you didn't have to worry about your charge pipes hitting either the engine or the K-member or the body somewhere and causing false knock issues.
Exactly. But once everything's together and fine, it makes good power. It really does make really good power for what it is.
Belt-driven turbo.
Yep, pretty much.
Grant just emailed us, I live in Albuquerque and want to get tuned by Alex and have a HP Tuners Engage. And I was told I have to have SCT.
Yep.
I really would like to have you guys tune my vehicle.
And then buy an SCT. Not that hard. Love you.
Use the Engage as a data logging
device. Use the Engage as a data logger. It'll data logger.
Did he say it was 11 to 14?
I think so.
Was that a power adder or stock like NA? Did he say in there?
I thought it was an 07. I could have sworn he said 07, like a GT500 or something like that. But
I kind of zoned out once he said Alex.
Yeah, I've been zoned out.
I was like, oh, I don't. This doesn't concern me. Yeah, I'm just gonna look at this over here.
Actually, clutch questions, and I think I'm gonna let you guys go because it's 3:10.
Yep.
When will the quad disc clutch be coming out and the price range?
It's like Gen 3.
Yeah, I know, right?
When's it coming out? How much is it?
Probably in June. I say that because we've got a couple that we're still testing, and I want to be very thorough with this since it is the highest end of the spectrum. Price-wise, don't know just yet. We're still kind of pricing out some options.
Got to do the pricing audit?
What's that?
Got to do the pricing audit?
Got to do the pricing audit. How much can I wring out of? But yeah.
How much does this cost me to make?
Yeah, exactly.
What you project it to cost and what it ends up
costing.
Can be two different things.
Frank says, any 2-valve Mustang clutch options? Would love to put one in my 2-valve Monster. Thanks, Alex.
10 spline. It's just
10 spline, no problem.
Yeah.
Stock.
Whatever you want.
Trey says, at what point would you need the Mantic triple disc over the twin?
If you're pushing more than say 820, 850 at the tire, if you're in that range, that's about where we start looking to switch it to a triple. The twin should hold that. That's kind of at the upper end of its level. But if you're going to be
that capacity,
it's always nice to have a little extra capacity. Yeah,
it's always nice to have a little extra.
So if you're spiking 790, 800, the twin is probably fine. If you're consistently pushing 850, 870,
time to look at a triple.
Then yeah.
Or if it makes 820, but it comes up on the power adder or whatever it is extremely quickly.
If you are chugging the giggle juice, then yeah, nitrous is rough. So yeah, all depends on how you're making the power, how violently the clutch has to handle that torque.
All right, this is the last question I'm going to take for the day.
Oh boy.
David says, old school Fox with dart block stroke to a 363.
Nice.
What clutch would you recommend for the street, not a track car?
He's probably making pretty good power.
It's probably a TKO 600.
I was going to say, probably TKO 600, which is only
why not a world-class T5?
Oh, boy.
Because why would I spend money on the dart and put it to a world-class T5
and put a 350 foot-pound.
Unless it's an Astro 5 or some kind of G-Force T5.
Yeah.
Still,
let's assume it's a TKO 600.
Whether he goes with either the twin or the triple, and we didn't know how much power he's making to make that decision, they both drive just as nice as
I'd rather have the twin because usually they don't stop at that power level. They throw a blower on it,
right?
Whatever.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing too. If he's looking to make more power, then yes, probably definitely a triple. But if he's kind of happy where he's at, and I mean maybe he's only making 650, 700-ish, twin should be perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
Perfect.
Jimmy Dolan says, thank you very much for the shout out. Looking forward to going quicker in 2018, Team Yeti. With that said, we are going to log off.
We want to thank Geoff Gerko for coming down. He literally flew down to Florida to be on this show.
Got a rental car.
Blows my mind.
Rented a Nissan to be on this show.
So I really want to thank Geoff Gerko from Mantic USA. If you guys have any questions about Mantic clutches, that's the guy to ask.
Later.
I know.
And again, remember, like, share, subscribe, and that's the only way you're going to get some of those questions answered, because if you don't share enough, we're just not going to care.
We're not going to do this.
But yeah, we really want to thank Mr. Gerko. Thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you guys for having me. I like working with you. We may have to do this again.
Hey,
exactly.
That'll work.
Andrew says, yeah, is it possible to have too much clutch?
Not really.
Too much salsa.
I mean, like I say, if you're a pro stock car and you're trying to adjust the clutch to just get enough slip to hold, sure, you can blow the tires off, but that's rarely.
Yeah,
That's an extreme case.
Completely different.
Yeah, if you're making 230 horsepower, I'm not going to sell you a triple because that is a grotesque overkill for what you need.
AKA
But,
2-valve nation.
Yeah, that'd be nice. But no, I mean you really.
Within reason, no.
Yeah, like with anything in life, you know, yes, there's always an extraneous point, but you know, if you're in the 600-ish range, I'm not going to recommend you a triple. If you're in the 900-ish range, I'm not going to recommend a twin because you're going to shoot through that. So we'll always try to match your clutch to your style and your performance goals. So
I like to use this analogy. If your shoe is if your foot is a size 12, can you physically? 13. If your foot is a size 12, can you physically fit an 18-inch shoe on there? Yes.
Sure.
Is it more than what you need? Yes. Get the shoe that fits with that little bit of room in the front for your toes to wiggle around.
Nah, dog.
But not everybody has a snaggle toe like you. So.
Yeah. I got like finger
We're getting
toes.
off
It's like
track.
a constant left turn. It's like,
You told us 2 questions ago that was the last question, and then you asked 2 more. Snuck them in there.
See, now we're getting into work zone here.
Saying a word now.
Okay, I guess that'll do it for us. Thanks. Tune in next week. We'll see what we have on next, but like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching.
thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.